Hello, how are you? Welcome to your English class. Today we are going to start with unit number 1. And our objectives are to talk about your past and to make sentences using simple past tense. Shall we start? Let's start. When we talk about simple past, we are going to talk about completed actions and events in the past. Means that those actions or those activities are not happening anymore. They finished. We are going to work with irregular verbs and regular verbs. Irregular verbs are the ones which are not going to end with ed. For example, we have some here. Went, flew, saw, ate, told, taught. Those are irregular verbs. And regular verbs are the ones ending with ed. Called, played, traveled, looked, paid, loved. All right? You will see in your book on page number 185 in grammar reference section, there is a list of common irregular verbs. Take a look, practice, so you can remember them and you will use it in the future. All right? One more time. This list is in your book on page 185 in grammar reference section. So let's start. As you can see here, we have a sentence in simple present. My mother goes to Trujillo every week. Every week is a routine. That's why we are using simple present tense. And we want to change that sentence into a simple past sentence. First of all, we are going to change the frequency, right? Instead of every week, I can say last month, yesterday, 2 days ago. No, anytime expressions that refers to the past. My mother, my verb should be in past form. What's the simple past of goes? Do you remember? My mother went to Trujillo last month. Fantastic. What about here? The verb is see him in the park last night. Do you remember what's the verb see in simple past? Do you remember? So, fantastic. The simple past of see is so. I saw him in the park last night. They to Amsterdam in 2008. What should I put here? Check it out. Yes, flew. They flew to Amsterdam in 2008. Lourdes, me last week. What should I put here? Called. Well done. Lourdes called me last week. Lourdes called me last week. Next, we lomo saltado for lunch. The verb is eat. We ate lomo saltado for lunch. Well done. Fantastic. We have here some sentences that we need to complete. Let's do it. Last year, my holiday in Ireland. Any suggestion? Spent. You are right. Last year, I spent my holiday in Ireland. What about the second? it great. Any idea? It was great. Number 3, I run by car with 2 friends and we lots of interesting places. Any idea? Yes? Yes, I traveled around by car with 2 friends and we visited lots of interesting places. Well done. Let's do number 4. Last week, we to a pub. What's the simple past of go? Do you remember? Went. Exactly. Last week, we went to a pub. Fantastic. Number 5. One night, we even some Irish dances. One night, we even learned some Irish dances. Number 6, we very lucky with the weather. We were very lucky with the weather. Number 7, but we some beautiful rainbows. But we saw some beautiful rainbows. Fantastic. Let's read them. Last year, I spent my holiday in Ireland. Repeat after me. It was great. I traveled around by car with 2 friends and we visited lots of interesting places. Last week, we went to a pub. One night, we even learned some Irish dances. We were very lucky with the weather. But we saw some beautiful rainbows. Very good. Let's continue. In order to make negative sentences, we are going to work with the auxiliary didn't. So look at this. We have, I worked in New York last summer. In a negative form, it's going to be, I didn't work in New York last summer. I'm using the auxiliary didn't plus my verb in its base form. I don't change it. As you can see, I'm going to use didn't with all the subjects. Doesn't matter if I'm working with he, with they, I will use didn't for all my subjects. And always my verb will not change. Look at this. I didn't live in London in 2000. You didn't live in London in 2000. He didn't live in London in 2000. She didn't live in London in 2000. It didn't live in London in 2000. We didn't live in London in 2000. They didn't live in London in 2000. So you will use didn't with all the subjects to make a negative sentence. And my verb is not going to change. Didn't live, didn't move, didn't go, didn't leave. All right? Please keep in mind, do not forget. Only when you are working with the verb be, you are going to work with wasn't and weren't. For example, I was in Rita's house for lunch. As a negative form, it's going to be I wasn't. in Rita's house for lunch. I wasn't in Rita's house for lunch. Remember that when you are working with I, he, she, or it, you will use wasn't. I wasn't born in 1966. He wasn't born in 1966. She wasn't born in 1966. It wasn't born in 1966. When you are working with you, we, and they, you will work with weren't. You weren't doctors. We weren't doctors. They weren't doctors. So we are going to work with wasn't or weren't. Let's complete these sentences, okay, with a negative verb. So, last year, my holidays in Ireland. Last year, I didn't spend my holiday in Ireland. What about the second? It, negative form, it wasn't great, right? Yes. Number 3. I, negative form, I didn't travel around by car with 2 friends and we, negative form, we didn't visit lots of interesting places. I didn't travel around by car with 2 friends and we didn't visit a lot of interesting places. Number 4, last week we didn't go to a pub. Last week we didn't go to a pub. Number 5, one night we even, negative form, didn't learn some Irish dances. Number 6, we, negative form, we weren't very lucky with the weather. We weren't very lucky with the weather. Number 7, but we, negative form, we didn't see some beautiful rainbows. Fantastic. One more time. Repeat after me, please. Last year, I didn't spend my holiday in Ireland. Ireland. Well done. It wasn't great. I didn't travel around by car with 2 friends. And we didn't visit lots of interesting places. Last week, we didn't go to a pub. One night, we even didn't learn some Irish dances. Irish dances. We weren't very lucky with the weather. But we didn't saw some beautiful rainbows. All right, thank you very much. That's it for tonight. Have a lovely evening. See you soon. Bye-bye.